Welcome to the coding and extension for the MoreCore Ruleset Part 7. In this video we're going to start looking at the NPC sheet. We've done a bit of work on the character sheet. Now we're going to look at the NPC sheet and get it back up to the same level that the PC sheet is currently. NPC sheets or monster sheets are far less detailed than character sheets. They don't need nearly as much information. Most NPCs on the stage for a much shorter period of time. They're either an encounter that ends with the NPC being dismembered on the floor, or might be a social interaction or a challenge interaction, and the NPC is present for a scene or maybe a number of scenes. So when we have a look at some basic expert samples, we can look at the null. We've got armor class 9. Experience is the experience that the players earn on defeating or overcoming the NPC. Hard hit dice, so 2d8. The number of hit dice is important because that affects the to hit armor class 0 value. Then we've got an alignment. In this case, we've got 2-to-1 neutral versus chaotic evil. Movement 30 feet. Treasure, that's treasure type 13-1, so that should link to a table. We've got attacks, 1 attack per round, and it's by weapon. The damage is roughly 1d8, and abilities, strength +1, intelligence -1, and a description. So nulls are vicious and stupid, a combination that makes them prone to random violence and unwilling to abandon a fight. This gives the GM a bit of information on how to roleplay the NPCs. They are found wandering in gangs, ravaging their way across the land until chased off or hunted down by the inhabitants. Null leaders and their 1d4 guards have 68 plus 3 hit dice each and strike for 2d6 damage. So when you have a large group of nulls, there will be a leader with up to 4 guards, and both the leader and the guards can have 68 plus 3 hit dice and do 2d6 damage as opposed to 1d8 damage. Let's have when we compare that to the standard MoreCore NPC sheet, we've got size and reach. We need those, although they're not on the BX stat blocks. We will be keeping them. Hero points, we haven't made the decision yet on those. Init bonus, we're going to leave it as is. So health will need to be relabeled as hit dice or hit points. Defense will be relabeled as armor class. Now, attacks may be placed in the attack string, or they may be set up as roles. Now we can see that in the main part of the lower half of the screen, we've got CT roles, attributes, other roles, other roles. So any roles put into CT roles will also appear in the combat tracker. So we also need strength +1, intelligence -1. We can put those in attributes. That's easy. And the description will go on the notes tab. So we've got a fairly limited number of things that we need to change here on this character sheet, or on this NPC sheet. The NPC sheets are defined in the record_NPC XML file. When we open that up and we make our way down the page until we find the health and defense, we can see that we've got a static text res NPC label health and another one static text res NPC label defense. So those text reses mean that the actual display text in there is in one of the strings files. So we'll go locate those next. So in the strings morecore.xml file, we can see NPC label health, which is health, and NPC label defense. We need to update those. But instead of doing them in the MoreCore strings .xml, we need to do it in our extension XML. So we've got a strings_dbd.xml in our extension. We're going to add the strings that we've just copied from our strings MoreCore, and we're going to relabel those fields. So we're going to change them to AC and hit points. And while we're in here, we're going to add a new one, NPC label _HD for hit dice. So back in our record NPC XML file, I'm going to duplicate one of the entries just above, taking the health entry probably, and replicating it so that we can add in an extra column for and field for hit dice, and then I'm reload the rule set, and we can see in our NPC sheet, no stats filled out still, but we've got hit points instead of health, and we've got AC instead of defense, and we've got HD, which is a new field. So they're all added in there, which is starting to take shape. So in our Manager Combat 2, which we've included into our extension, I've added the following code to look up, to investigate whether NPC has got hit points or only hit dice, and then set the hit points. So we'll start with line 201. We're checking for the current health or hit point value, storing that as NHP. We're checking for the current HD hit dice value and storing that as NHD. And then we're checking to see if the class, so there's two classes, there's NPC and there's character. So if it's a NPC and the hit points is equal to 0 and the hit dice does not equal 0, then we're going to declare a new variable sclean hit dice, and we're going to basically pull the hit dice string out of that character sheet, and that'll be in the format of hash d hash plus hash. So it might be 1d6, 2d8, might be 4d8 plus 2, something like that. And then we are going to just use a random math to calculate out what the hit dice value would be. There's no need to roll dice to do that. And then we're going to, using db.setValue, node CT, health, number, NHP. So we're going to calculate the number of hit points randomly based on the hit dice, if no hit points has been specified, and then we're going to set that into the combat tracker version of our NPC. Now we have a look at some examples, and the first goblin I added, the goblin's been set with 1d6 plus 1, and I didn't have any hit points in there at first in the stat blocks, so it rolled a 5 plus 1. Goblin number 2 rolled a 1 plus 1, and then as a final test I changed the hit points statically to 8, which is a value that 1d6 plus 1 can't get, and then I added a third goblin to the combat tracker, and it retained the 8 hit points and did not do any further calculations on it. So we now have the hit dice, the hit points, and the armor class working from the goblin sheet. Next we're going to store to hit armor class 0. We'll continue that in the next tutorial session. Thank you for following along, and I do again look forward to seeing whatever creations you are coming up with when you're working through these on your own time.